next up. So just because if you listen to Spotify, you'll be completely baffled by what the hell we're doing. How we're approaching this is we decide to start in the middle of the ladder, a 9th spot, and go one up and one down to save us all just finishing and starting with Tigers like we do each and every year when we've got a gut full of piss. So we're going to get to Canberra next, who did finish in the 8th. Incredibly, because it's...
It didn't look like a chance for most of the
Because they didn't look a chance. And as I said, it's quite incredible that they finished 8th, given how we rated them. And then by the same logic, I wanted to get the big black texture out and just put bottom 4 on them. And you go, well, they finished 8th. And what... They haven't changed a great deal again. But anyway, player movement. This year they have picked up Zach Hoskins, who pleaded his case to go down there. Simi Sagi, Morgan Smithies from the Wigan Warriors, and KO Weeks, who seems to be the front runner to play 5'8". They've lost Jared Croker, Matt Frawley, Brad Schneider, Harley Smith-Shields, Valame, who left partway through the year, and obviously Whiten, who we spent plenty of time discussing. How's their draw look?
Where were we? Only 5 games against the top 4. One of the easier draws, to be honest, in the competition, and they have where we. The Raiders have 4 games against the bottom 3, so 4 out of a possible 6 is not too bad, and all the rest are basically 50-50 matches through the middle of the season.
Yeah.
But one of the teams that has not as many games against that top 4, which are still going to be right up there, I would imagine, this year.
Well, they don't play. Oh, they play the Warriors twice, and they play the Roosters twice, who aren't top 4. But I assume
the Warriors were.
Yes, that's right. But Roosters weren't. But I feel like we're going to treat Roosters as a top 4 team the way we look at this draw. No? Yeah.
We'll get there.
They play the Bulldogs twice, Tigers twice, Sea Eagles twice, Cowboys, Sharks twice. Now, their best 17, and Seb Chris is missing round 1, but I've put him at 1. And
Okay.
reading the interview with Ricky from a couple of weeks back, his words were, and I quote, Savage will need a big pre-season to play. He knows what's required. I would suggest that means he's not in the running to be playing. So I think Seb Chris ends up at 1. I think Chevy Stewart will see these trials. He's the other one in contention. Rapana at 2. Ethan Strange at 3. Tomoko, Kotrick, Weeks, Fogarty, who's just been named as vice-captain. Tarpanay, hooker, I've just put Wolford, but Levy and Wolford tended to swap.
Starling.
Yeah. Well, one of them will be, I think Starling will be 14, and one of the other 2 will be starting. Papali, Elliot Whitehead, Young, Horsburgh. I couldn't find a spot for Hoskins in the starting lineup. So Starling, Hoskins, Smithies, and I put Young Puru on the bench as well. Thoughts on that? Have I missed anyone obvious?
You left Miss Gula, who was a
very
big
good
part
at
of
last
their
year,
17 last year. But I wouldn't mind seeing the young fellas come through, but knowing Ricky, it probably won't happen. not to start the season anyway. He does seem to always give his tried and true a lot longer than some of them probably deserve, to be honest. But no, I think you're pretty close there. KO Weeks is an interesting one. Seen him play a bit of fullback, a bit of centre and wing, but apparently an out-and-out half coming through the grades. So how he slots in there, because they're going to need a lot of help with some ball playing, the Raiders.
Yes.
For mine, they were one of the poorer attacking teams in the comp last year, and I can't see much that they've added to the squad that's going to help them in that facet. So
last year they lost in Golden Point in the final, which, like I said, is incredible to think back to then for us to probably sit here and pot them for the next 15 minutes. But they beat South's Para and stayed in the look. They were just great at hitting a flat spot. So if they were leading or if they were getting close, they'd suddenly this 15-minute flat spot, concede 2 tries, and they put out of games or have to then scramble back into games. I think the forward pack's the key. It's
absolutely
but because as you said, their ball playing isn't fantastic. Is there a transition? Do you think because I think Whitehead's close to finishing up there? Is there going to be a transition over the year from Hoskins trying to take over that back row role as a workhorse? Is there? Does Horsburgh move back into the front row rotation? He played lock at the back end there. Do you have much intel on Morgan Smithies at all?
No, I don't actually. Apparently, big spruiks on him as a back rower coming out of the Super League. But yeah, I watch little to no Super League football, to be honest with you. Only hear what probably most other people hear around the traps coming out of the Super League. I would imagine Horsburgh probably stays at 13.
Okay.
Did a fantastic role there, just playing as that extra middle forward more than anything else. But he did seem to develop a bit of an offload as well last year, which we hadn't seen it be a big part of his game before sort of halfway through last year, and it really did start to help them with some of that ball playing around the ruck in the middle of the field. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes up that position. If Hoskins is serious about being a first-grade footballer, that's his role now, is to push Whitehead out of that spot.
Yeah.
Because he's got to be 12, 24 months at most away from not playing NRL, first-grade NRL. So, yeah.
Any thoughts on the Raiders?
I've got no idea for the Raiders this year. They could be anything. The forward pack is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the entire season, much like they did last year. Ricky, I've got no idea. I don't know what his issue is with Starling.
Is that a quote? Ricky, I've got no idea. Or is that
That's his nickname, is it? It's his fighter name. Yeah, right.
But Starling must have done something to someone. He came in looking absolutely gold, and then Ricky went, "No, you can play 15 minutes a game, come off the bench and do nothing." And
he had a lot of off-field issues going on, and that's all been cleared and resolved, and he's been proven.
He's going to hold that over his
innocent.
head. Don't put him in the team.
I know, but you know. But that's been the Ricky. Similar to BA, it's been the Ricky MO for a long time. He doesn't tend to back the youngsters. He's always going to go back to his old boys, and I think it's happening. We've seen it in Savage. To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if Savage is somewhere else by the end of the year.
Yep.
Given, as I said, Chevy Stewart's in there. Seb Chris he loves. He's going to either be in and around that spine, I would suggest. Yeah.
I think they're one breakdown in the forward pack from really falling off a cliff.
Does Papali transition into a bench forward?
Not yet. I don't think they've got enough around him to be able to force him out of the team, to be honest.
Well, they don't have front row, do they? They've only got 2 front rows, unless it's
Pretty
Gula,
much.
as you said. Or they move someone else into the middle.
Yep.
And Hudson Young's not going to be that guy. Whitehead might be. Maybe they can just get him in, but, at the back of the career, he's not going to win games in the middle, is he? And
does have a tendency to miss some tackles there at different times, which is probably not what you want from the bloke who's trying to hold your middle together. I see Hoskins being a massive positive when they do get him out there on an edge. I'd be starting him, but
and if
whether
he does
or not,
is he just a super coach?
He should, but Ricky may not.
No, if he starts, I think he is an absolute no-brainer, yeah. But even if he's on the bench, I can still see him playing probably at least 40 minutes, which,
Do you get 70
you're probably
out of
not going to lose money, but you get the occasional 70 out of him maybe. But you might go looking somewhere else if he is only playing 40 minutes. But that 40 minutes for this Canberra side, I can see being a very big positive, because they didn't have that ball runner on that right edge, realistically, for most of last year. It was always going to the left. It was always going to Hudson Young outside of Whiten.
Yep.
Or they were looking for Tomoko on the opposite side, and it was the centre that had to do it. They didn't really have an option inside him to, create space for Tomoko to burn people with, because he actually was a bit quicker than I thought he was. Yeah, he did burn a few blokes last year, and he's an upside for him as well. But there's too many questions around the 1 and the 6 for mine. In the 9, to be honest. Realistically, they're going to be relying on Fogarty heavily during the year, and we've seen teams that generally rely too heavily on one player in that playmaking role. They get stifled pretty quickly.
I had exactly that point, because if you look at last year, so many of their points, I would say almost 80% of their points were from individual brilliance or luck, whatever. So it's always Whiten busting a tackle or throwing a rainbow ball, or Tomoko beating someone 1-on-1 or breaking 2 tackles and see someone else up, or Hudson Young, grubbering, or
one of the front rowers
or Fogarty hitting. How many games did Fogarty? He loves that little
grubbered for himself.
The
a couple
little
of times.
what do they call it? The snap and whatever is the grubber, the snap and trap or whatever they call it. I can't remember what it's called now. The thing where he grubbers into the wall against the Tigers twice. He grubbed into the post and got him out of jail. I agree. think it's a massive year for Fogarty. Elevated vice captain, now injury free, will be the full-time goal kicker. Is he a Supercoach pod as a second halfback, or do you want to wait and see first?
I wouldn't be touching him with the other options.
And I know Cleary and Hines and blah 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 are going to be ahead of him. Once you've got a bank, if he's 500. I mean, if he's going any good, you've missed your boat. Because by then he'll be 700. But I had as a pod option, I thought he might not be bad. But then if we're sort of not confident on Raiders, then what's he worth?
Throw him into your second team.
You'd want to see him. You'd want to see him in form, and then with a soft draw, I think, in front of him to be going, especially in a position like halfback where there's a couple of blokes there that average 80 and 90. So
Yeah. But they do have to the point that they do have a soft draw.
I'd want to see him playing good footy to begin with.
I'm not optimistic on this Canberra team this year, but as they finished 8th and they've got a pretty good draw, so I can't completely pen them. I'm going to suggest somewhere between 8th and 12th, just so not all the Canberra fans shout at us. What are you thinking, GT?
I think I might get unalived by the time I get home for this one, but I think Jordan Rapana's a big key for them this year. I think he's going to have to stand up even more than he has done the last couple of years and really pull him out of the shit a few times.
Again, another one, I don't mention him, but when you talk about blokes individually, that was just the tune of Canberra. It's always either Rapana has in a blowout game, Whiten at the time,
Tomoko,
Hudson Young,
Tarpanay.
Yeah.
But I don't hold a lot of hope for them for the year.
I think they'll lose more of those games that they sort of ground away and got last year. So I can see them. I've got them in the bottom 4, to be honest.
Okay.
Could
give or take
finish
around
anywhere
spot.
from 7th to 14th, realistically. But I'm thinking towards the bottom of that spread rather than higher.
KO week 6.
Looking like it.
And
I don't think there's anyone else in that squad that looks like they could really play in that position.
Seb Chris.
Yes, possibly. And Ricky does love him, but
Because we've never seen his kicking game. We don't really know what else he offers, do we, Weeks, in terms of ball
and
playing?
he did look quite good at fullback there
And he's
for
quick.
a couple of games that he played.
He's definitely quick. And he's going to be very popular in Supercoach through that spectrum for that reason. But, don't know. Anything else?
Well, Tarpanay's
Thanks,
a
Ricky.
set and forget. If you want a set and forget in the front row, you could.
Yeah.
He's going to consistently truck out games, and then he will be one forward that can get you those couple of 100+ games during the year as well.
Isn't
with a
there
try and offloads, but
the problem is there's 8 set and forget front rows, isn't there?
at least 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah,
and you can't afford to put them all in there.
that's right.
But if you were to say he's my man that I'm going with, and everyone else is going to be under him, then I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah. What do you final word on Canberra?
Yeah, as I said, too many question marks around the spine for mine, and an unsettled spine is never a positive for any NRL team that's playing footy. So, yeah, the question marks around the 9 and the 1 leaves me pretty cold on Canberra this year.
GT, anything to add?
No, I'm really struggling to see them performing. Though they may win a few of those close games that they probably should lose. But aside from that, I believe their for and against is going to take a bit of a hit like it did last year, and they're going to struggle to get anywhere near the top 8 this year.
Yeah.